So if you're wondering who the hell is this guy, why is he not in a banana suit, how many M&Ms can he fit in his beard, is Age of Calamity any good? Well, we're going to answer all that and more in this video. This is going to be my first game review like ever, so it's a little bit weird to kind of give feedback and opinion on a game. So if you guys like it and you want to hear more, do us a favor and hit the subscribe button below so we can keep on making stuff for you guys. So Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is a Warriors title. So what that means is it's not a Breath of the Wild game. The thing that's really interesting is they chose to take the actual story from Breath of the Wild and make it canon by pulling it into a completely different genre. And that's creating a little bit of controversy, some confusion, and things like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about what a Warriors game is and how they've transitioned that genre into the Breath of the Wild world and try to help you decide whether or not it's the right game for you. Now, personally, I have a bit of a bias already up front. I don't like Warriors titles, but I did enjoy this game. But there's some things you should know before you jump into it. Of course, there's all kinds of stuff that they do inside the game to make it feel more like it's a part of the Breath of the Wild world. You have the Sheikah Slate, which is everything that you're going to see besides combat. The way that you progress, the way that you do side quests are all done through a Sheikah Slate-like UI, which is something you'll be very familiar with coming from Breath of the Wild. You'll upgrade your weapons by fusing them together in order to grow their strength. Take the loot that you found from killing monsters and use them for recipes and cooking. You won't cook the food yourself or learn the recipes on your own. What you do is you take certain materials and turn them into NPCs on the Sheikah Slate to earn those recipes. You'll also choose to cook before you leave the map to give you a temporary buff. Missions themselves are of course all packed with baddies. They all have different bosses. You're spending the time going through completing different objectives and look for the opportunity for exploration and find secret chests that are hidden throughout the map. But unlike the Breath of the Wild series, it's very linear. So don't expect to be able to climb up mountains and trees, find physics to kill things with. It's very kind of one track. You'll see your mini map in the bottom right, and that is everywhere that you can go, and you can't leave those confined walls, which is fine. In my opinion, there's times where they should have really removed that factor to make it feel more like Breath of the Wild, and it would have been a lot more of a comfortable experience for people who are seeing things as Breath of the Wild coming in to try a Warriors game for the first time. For example, there's a level with a wooden platform kind of in the center with a bunch of bad guys on top, and the only way to get to it is of course to walk around the platform as expected, and then you go through and you beat the crap out of everybody and then try to jump off the platform to keep going. Well, you can't. You can't jump. You can't paraglide off of the platform. There's no rails off this area that I'm trying to walk off, and I thought it was just kind of crazy that I couldn't just go off of it. Like, I understand the wall restrictions for keeping you within the confines of the map, but in an area for you to explore, I think they should have removed those invisible walls. But I maybe it's a minuscule complaint, I guess. But if they would have removed those walls and let me paraglide off of it, it would have felt a lot more of a smooth transition from, hey, this is Breath of the Wild, but in a Warriors game, you know. Anyway, moving on. Now, I do want to say something super positive about this game that I was actually really surprised about. When I found out that it was going to be a Warriors title, my first reaction was, it's going to be lifeless. Like, if you play, I didn't play the previous Hyrule Warriors, but if you play really any Dynasty Warriors game, the levels feel like they're just square blocks with tons of guys in them and like two trees, and if you're in a room, there's like a chair and a table, and it just really feels like you're not a part of the world. But fortunately, in this game, they did really well at pulling the exact assets and level design from Breath of the Wild to really make it feel like you're exploring this game in a new genre, but in the exact same world. It took that invisible wall to remind me that I wasn't playing Breath of the Wild. So that's a really good thing in terms of the art style and everything, it being really smooth. Really looks like a Breath of the Wild title. In a Warriors game, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of monsters on a map. They're constantly spawning and changing and coming at you, and you got to keep up with all this hecticness and chaos going on. generally speaking, that means that the AI is also kind of stupid. So the AI is not very smart. The only real challenge came from the bosses. So you'll have your basic AI, you hack and slash straight through it, collect all the goodies, and it's super fun, it looks great, and the larger version of the mob is only like a tick harder than the base mobs in Breath of the Wild. Every other time that you see it, if it's not like a boss creature, you can just swipe straight through it, you can run through it, completely ignore them, and they won't even mess with you or hit you. I could be wrong, it could be a difficulty setting type thing. Personally, I tried playing it on very hard, and when I played it on very hard and I went through, the AI didn't really seem to get smarter. Instead, they just hit harder and took longer to go through them. I really just wasn't in the mood to perilously just beat the heck out of the same creature over and over and over, you know, at times 10 amount of health, basically. Maybe if you increase the difficulty, that changes over time, but for me, I really felt like it would have been better if the AI was a little bit more risky in terms of the horde mechanics. But once again, that's a Dynasty Warriors thing, and that's one of the many reasons that I don't like that. So you can ignore that opinion of mine there. Now, outside of the loopy AI, combat's phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie. I love the combat in the game. The only thing that I don't like is that I can't actually jump. The way that you go up in the air is through different combos. So you initiate a combo. Some of them will sometimes throw you up in the air where you can then paraglide to change your direction of where you're going to land. You have different weapons. If you're Link, things like the spear, the two-handed claymore, sword and shield, and tons of different variations of those. I got to play around with things like the lizard's boomerang. I can't pronounce the name. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Lizarfo? Got to play with the lizard boomerang and throw that around a bit. That was cool. You can also get like the mop and the tree branch and just upgrade the crap out of that. Beat everybody up with those, which is hilarious. But the other champions, they don't really have that option, so your customization's pretty limited. You can really only change the weapons that Link has, and then your champions and stuff kind of have just their basic weapons that they will always use forever. Now, of course, the big reason everybody wants it is the story. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil the story for you at all, but I will say that every single cutscene made me happy. Like, I loved the cutscene. You can go back, you can play them back in a gallery, and you can just rewatch your favorite moments of the game. And it felt really, really good to watch the story. They're beautiful and clean, and it really felt like you were learning more about how their individual personalities actually worked. Now, I'm also a super huge weeb, so I, of course, watched it all in Japanese. I have no idea what the English dub sounds like, so if the English dub sounds terrible, watch it in Japanese, because it's just so much more intense. It really sets the tone for, hey, this is a war and you're gonna die if you don't continuously beat the crap out of everything. I do think it's safe for me to mention that you obviously will get to experience kind of the Divine Beast, which I thought was really cool and honestly is kind of actually my favorite parts of the game. So you would pilot the beast, and it would be a complete unique level experience, and the world's a bit more like destructible, so you get to feel really how large the creature is, how large the beast is, and its ability to just literally annihilate things. It's total eye candy, but I fell for it. I would just literally blow things up constantly, trying to figure out where the limitations are. But by doing that, you can also really kind of feel that it is kind of gimmicky, and so it's a little gimmicky. It's just kind of a side aspect, and it's still probably one of my favorite parts of the game. I think you guys will really enjoy that if you really enjoyed exploring the Divine Beast in Breath of the Wild. Overall, Age of Calamity was a really fun game, but if you're not a Dynasty Warriors fan, you're going to have a really hard time enjoying this title. It's nothing like Breath of the Wild, but when you play it a bit, you'll kind of understand why. Because the actual Calamity itself, it's an apocalypse. Like, there's hordes and hordes of monsters coming at you, and really the only way that you can represent that is through something like a Dynasty Warriors game. I will say though, in my experience of Dynasty Warriors games, even though I don't like them myself, this is probably the most polished one that I've ever seen. Before you try this game, be sure to have an open mind that it is not Breath of the Wild, and it is a Warriors game, so it's not going to operate the same. And if you want to give the game a shot and see if the Warrior titles are for you, if you're coming from the Breath of the Wild series, or if you're already a Warriors fan, we of course have the title here at Gamers HQ. And if you are looking to trade it in or any other recent titles that just came out, be sure to visit us at gamershq.com. You can click hit list and you can see what we're giving for cash and credit values for pretty much all the recent games. Thank you guys again for watching. This is my very first game review ever. I probably missed some things, so let me know in the comments what you want to really know if in case I missed something, or let me know what game you want to see me review next. You guys will be seeing me a lot more specifically for Nintendo stuff, so thanks for sticking around, and be sure to give us a subscribe if you guys want to see more stuff. This is more like on my beard than in. Yeah, I can't do this. I can't do it.